Are you willing to put yourself out there? Who do you think could be in that RPAC title match, or do you have some of those main contenders that you think? Because those top four, two from each side, Southwest Cambridge, Mayhay, Dundee County Strat, it could be a total toss-up, it seems like.
I do think right now, I mean, there's so many things that can change. When you're talking about Class D rosters, one injury can upset the whole fruit basket. But I think right now, we haven't played a competitive set yet. I think you'd probably look at Cambridge and Southwest in the East and Maywood-Hayes Center and DCS in the West. I think there are other teams that could certainly mess with that a little bit. I think Alma's one of those.
Yeah.
Arapaho has the potential to be one of those. They don't have the size necessarily to match up with some of the other teams, but the way they played down the stretch, they were a root canal to try and terminate against, and that.
Hey everyone, Evan Jones with you here on the RPAC Rundown Podcast. This week, Cody Gerlach of the Valley Voice will join us as we will take a look at the landscape for volleyball in the RPAC as the regular season gets started next week. Absolutely crazy to think that we are that close to volleyball action at the high school level. A lot of good teams in the RPAC once again this season. Be sure to check out rpacrundown.com and our social media also for all kinds of great content. The RPAC Rundown Podcast is brought to you by a bunch of great sponsors like Arapaho Rehab and Fitness, Cambridge Supermarket, Webb's Oilfield Service, Cambridge Rehab and Fitness, Onyx Native, and C+. We will take a break. Be right back. Now joining us on the RPAC Rundown Podcast is Cody Gerlach of the Valley Voice. Of course, we collaborate with the Valley Voice on our preseason magazines for the fall, winter, and spring sports seasons. Well, we got a 2.5 month, we'll put in quotations, break from sports. But we were talking just last week. We're ready to roll for another sports season, and yes. I assume you are too.
Bring it on. I'm ready to go cover some ball games.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Should be an interesting season. We're going to preview volleyball for the fall sports season. And so volleyball in the RPAC has consistently been solid. We think it'll be solid again. But Cody, this year, there might be a few more questions for even our top tier teams, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no team that I don't think that just returns so many players from a year ago that makes them an overwhelming favorite, like maybe Southwest was a year ago, or Cambridge a couple years ago, and Southwest a couple years ago. I think everybody's got some holes they're trying to plug. The good news for a lot of these teams is they have more athletes. It's just a matter of we haven't seen them play. And so, and in some cases, their coaches haven't seen them play yet in a competitive environment. So we're anxiously waiting to see what it looks like.
Yes, should be very interesting. So we'll go through those top 5 teams that you had mentioned in the magazine that you felt like were the top 5 in the conference at the beginning of the season. Let's begin. You mentioned Southwest. I got Annika Nelms, Aspen Billiter, Kira Nelms. Great coaching, obviously, with Kim Barnett. But defensively, they'll have to find, obviously, a libero, and then also just passing in general to get them in system.
Yeah, you're replacing both of your outside hitters. And for most volleyball teams, your outside hitters are amongst your primary passers. You're replacing a libero. You're replacing a right side hitter. They're replacing. I didn't go crunch the numbers, but I have to imagine it's more than half of their digs from a year ago and more than half of their serve receptions. That's a lot of production. Big thing for Southwest is they're still going to be big, and they've consistently been a good serving team. When you're big and you serve well, you can rely on your defense at the net to really slow your opponent down. They had a great trip to Kearney's Top 10 camp, which is every year the end of July. A lot of these RPAC teams went to that. I think Southwest got third. They're obviously ready to go. And they still have, every night when they take the floor, they're going to have a number of the best players, 3 at least, of the best players on the court any given night. That's a great place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they'll be, again, very tough. And last year was kind of a wait and see how the setting position would go with Aspen Billiter. And, we knew she'd be a good athlete, but I think she exceeded a lot of expectations.
Yeah, and that does take a lot of the stress off. as you're trying to break in some new primary passers, if your setter is quick and athletic, like Aspen is, it doesn't put as much stress that you need a 3-point pass every time.
Yeah.
So that'll allow them to continue to run offense, even if their passing is a little shaky. And that's a program that has just been competing at the top end of the league for a number of years now. I've got to imagine a lot of these kids were in practices before. They're doing the same drills. They're going to have the same technique and approach to things. They're going to be ready to go.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine.
For sure. Now, Cambridge, they return Mallory Springer, Brooklyn and Jocelyn Holtz, Elizabeth Kubik, Annabelle Taylor. Again, for them, defensively and passing, those are some of the questions that head coach Lauren Carpenter will have to kind of figure out.
Yeah, they returned more of their primary passers. Obviously, they didn't get a fully healthy Aaron Johnson a year ago, but that is a big time hitter to try and replace. I haven't actually talked to Coach Carpenter since practice started to see how they're fitting the rotation together, but they do have 5 players that have been on the floor for at least one season, and 4 of those have been out there for a couple seasons. That Cambridge is going to be right there at the top of the league again, though, too.
We'll take a short break and continue our conversation with Cody Gerlach of the Valley Voice. You're listening to the RPAC Rundown Podcast. Yeah. And we should mention also those district assignments were released. Was that late last week?
Yeah.
All the days are running together already.
I think it was on Friday.
Yeah. So you can see where everyone lines up. Pretty much everyone in the conference is in D1 or D2 with the exception of Alma and Maxwell being in C2. But we'll get to some of that in a little bit. Now, Maywood-Hayes Center, tons of athleticism, Carissa Stengel, Blakely Farr, and others. What questions, though, do you think they kind of need to answer, Cody?
So for them, it's kind of that middle touch. Reagan Stengel, Aubrey Brose, served as primary setters a year ago. So they've got to figure out that transition from the pass to the swing. But again, it's a very athletic group. And they just, every year they replace athletes with athletes, it seems. They're going to be much more experienced than they were coming into the last couple seasons. I'm actually really excited for the Wolves. I think they're going to have a great year. And probably, and we're going to talk about DCS here in a second. I think those two probably battling for the top spot in the West. But Mayhay has the ability to play really fast if they're in system. And that is a tremendous weapon. And last year, having to be in C2, made a district final, really tough matchup there. You get into D1, and it's amazing how fast, when you move down a class, how much faster the PowerPoints pile up, right?
Yes.
That's a big deal. Your postseason aspirations with the setup we have really boil down to how far your PowerPoints can carry you in terms of that district final seeding. And they're going to be in a much better place, I think, than they were a year ago.
Yeah, like you mentioned, they're in D1, looking specifically D1 11, along with Southwest Arapahoe, Medicine Valley, and Highline are all in that same sub-district. So yes, for Maywood-Hayes Center, very fortunate for them to be in D1. All right, next one, Dundee County Stratton, great athletes. Anytime you can roll out 2 Spargos on the floor, Clara and Abby Spargo, and then Emily Shack, also a great player. But for them, it seems like having a setter is going to be really important. We'll have to figure out who that's going to be early on.
Yeah. I think for DCS, we kind of thought they'd have a really good year last year, coming off would have been a few tough seasons. And they did. And that was even with a bit of a slower start. They got really hot down the stretch. And I think finished just a couple rallies short of making the state tournament anyway. That's a team that, again, is going to be really physical and athletic at the net. Volleyball success is predicated on those first 2 touches, though. And so I think they're athletic enough to become a better passing team. And like we talked about, with Southwest, Cambridge, Mayhay, same thing. When you have that much size and athleticism at the net, the better serving team you are, the better position you put yourself in to use that athleticism, and it doesn't become so much of a passing game. So if the Tigers can kind of enhance some of their skills in terms of serving, passing, as a team that I think could not only get to Lincoln, but maybe hang out for the weekend.
Yeah. And like you said, they were just a couple rallies short from making it to state against a very good Amherst team that made it to state and district finals. All right, the final one in that 5, Alma. Great athleticism, Kirsten Moore, Cam Scott, Vaden Epp, Camry Neal, but kind of the same theme, trying to find a setter. Passing shouldn't be a huge issue depending on where they put, like Camry Neal. She was very good as a passer last year, but setting for Alma could be something they're going to have to figure out as well early on.
Yeah, I think she's excited about a really big group of athletic freshmen. They have the horses, so to speak, to make some noise and really put some pressure on their opponents. It's going to come down to how fast some younger players that have to fill starting roles on the varsity team step into those, get comfortable, and kind of take hold of them. And then whenever you have a mix of some older experienced players and a lot of young faces, leadership is always a big deal. So it's kind of a wild card when you're banking on freshmen, but whenever they're athletic freshmen, there's still potential, especially when you're in, I guess they're not in Class D.
Yeah, C2, 3, in that area is where they're going to be at. Yep, what's a region? I should have used the right term. C2, 3 region. Yeah,
which I still can't wrap my head around that concept.
I'm working towards it too.
Whatever. Could we scrap that? Could we scrap that before we have to actually learn how it works? Because I don't think it works the way you thought it was going to.
Is this you talking to
the
I'm
NSAA?
talking to
C2 administrators. I don't think this is what you thought you were going to get. It didn't work out too bad for the RPAC C2 schools last year. But I don't want to hear any more complaining about having to go to Hayes Center. I don't get it, but whatever.
Yeah. No, Coach Jennifer Moore will have another great squad there for Alma, I think, for sure. Now, are you willing to put yourself out there? Who do you think could be in that RPAC title match, or do you have some of those main contenders that you think? Because those top 4, 2 from each side, Southwest Cambridge, Mayhay, Dundee County Strat, it could be a total toss-up, it seems like.
I do think right now, I mean, there's so many things that can change. When you're talking about Class D rosters, one injury can upset the whole fruit basket. But I think right now, we haven't played a competitive set yet. I think you'd probably look at Cambridge and Southwest in the East and Maywood-Hayes Center and DCS in the West. I think there are other teams that certainly mess with that a little bit. I think Alma's one of those. Arapahoe has the potential to be one of those. They have the size necessarily to match up with some of the other teams, but the way they played down the stretch, they were a root canal to try and terminate against. And that's always a quality that, I mean, is going to endear itself to me. I really like teams that bank on defense. But they are very scrappy. I don't mean that as a, tryhards. They're athletically scrappy. They just can be really relentless with how they play defense. I'd like to see them set that tone early and to see where they could get. I think the league, though, on the whole, Evan, I don't think there's going to be a lot of 28 and 4s and 7 and 20s. The best team in the league might have 5 or 6 losses. And the second best team might be 22 and 10. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams, maybe 10 of them that flirt with 500, maybe a couple games over, a couple games under. Back on the PowerPoints conversation, that's not a bad place to be, though. You don't want to have nights where you're going out looking for 41. You want nights where you're looking for 44, 47. I think it could be a highly competitive league. I think you could see a lot of 5-set matches when you get into league play. And as far as some other teams, Hitchcock County has a lot of experience back. Maxwell has some size to mix with some experience. Juanita Palisade has some athletes.
Yeah, they're kind of one of those teams that I'm watching for. Juanita Palisade is for sure.
Wallace has a lot of tradition. I know they were kind of rebuilding a lot last year, but we talked about passer and setter. They've got that figured out.
They do.
They just need some people to terminate and step up to assist in passing. Bertrand, always kind of, the last 4 or 5 years, they kind of beat your expectation and they kind of find their way to be around when we get into RPAC tournament and the sub-district tournament, be around in games that matter. But there's a lot of question marks there too. I just think it's a year where I think some of the teams that maybe struggled to 5, 6, 7 wins last year could jump up to 10, 11, 12. Some of the teams that were like Southwest undefeated, I don't think we have anybody in the league that's going to be unbeaten into October, probably even.
Yeah.
But I just think there's a lot of balance there. And I think you could get those random upsets where, just something that you check the scores that night or the next day and you're like, what the heck was that? Well, let's not let ourselves be surprised about those things this year. I think that's the kind of year we're in for.
Yeah, I think there's some clear, I'll put that in quotations, favorites, but plenty of opportunities for parity. I think there's a lot of opportunities for parity.
Completely agree.
So looking at districts assignments, we kind of mentioned some of that. Was there anything that surprised you there, Cody, or was it all just kind of what you thought it might be like?
I think every year you go to, it doesn't matter what sport, whenever we're talking about districts, you have the ones where you look at it and you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Condolences on that. And then there were some you looked at, it's like, oh, well, I think you can pencil that team in for hosting that sub. I was kind of surprised with the D2 districts that Cambridge didn't slide out with the West teams. Because I'm trying to remember, they are with
Bertrand. And then Wilcox Hildreth.
And Franklin. 3 teams that are, well east of them. And typically the way it's gone for a few years, they've slid west. That West sub-district basically being an RPAC invitational in D2. Again, I hate the C2 format. I just want to make sure we're on the record with that. And in D1, I think we have a couple subs that are going to be RPAC heavy. The good news there is I think the league has a potential, because you dominate a couple sub-districts, you're automatically going to, pretty much going to have a couple district finalists there. The goal, you could say the goal is to get to state tournament. The goal really needs to be, we want to get to a district final, and we don't want to be a 13th seed.
Sure.
You want to be in the top 10, because if you're in the top 10 seeds, I think you feel like you've got a shot to win the thing. I think that should be the goal for probably 7, 8, maybe even 9 of the league's teams. And I think it's a realistic one. So if you can get to that point, now you get to that. They play those on a Saturday, right? You get to that Saturday with a chance to clinch a berth at state tournament, and you've put a few months of work together for that one period in time, and I think that's the parity in the league this year is going to actually help teams get themselves to a position to have a favorable matchup in a district final.
And like you said, 7, 8, 9 teams could have a chance of making it to state, especially after looking at these district assignments. It just provides that much more confidence that there's a lot of teams in the league that have a chance to make it down to Lincoln.
Sure.
But no, should be really interesting. What's going on with the Valley Voice? You got posters coming out for the preseason and stuff like that. And what else?
We're trying to get county fair results. Folks, if you are a reader of the Valley Voice and you are looking for those fair results in the paper, they are coming. But 4 county fairs is a lot to type up. And especially when you are a chicken pecker on the keyboard like I am. But we're getting there. We got softball.
We got golf on Thursday.
And then Ready or Not next weekend, it is full throttle.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this. I'm ready for, I coach Legion baseball. We had a good summer with that, but that ended the end of July, and there's been like a void for 3 or 4 weeks. So there's just nothing competitive to take on. So I'm kind of missing that. I'm ready for stuff to get going again.
Yep. And I'm not going to lie, week 0 of college football this weekend has me pretty excited with K-State, Iowa State.
Yes.
That will scratch the itch till high school football and volleyball. Yes. And like we said, we have things going on this week, but some of those other things, that'll suffice for now.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So, well, awesome.
We kind of got off the hook here. What about you?
Oh,
finals.
RPAC finals. I like those 4 teams that you mentioned as well. The sneaky one I think could be from the West is Juanita Palisade. I do think that they could put together. I think they'll be a really good defensive team on the volleyball court. So yeah, you could kind of put them in that one of those 3 also that on the West side. But you never know. Also on the East, we talked about Alma. If they get hot at the right time, them too. But I think it is. The conference is, we wouldn't say wide open, but it's not just 3 or 4 teams. It could be 6 of them that could be vying for that championship match. So
it should be fun, man.
It should be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it. Well, thanks for the time, and we'll be seeing you around, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. That will do it for this week's episode of the pod. Many thanks for tuning in. Also, thanks to Cody Gerlach of the Valley Voice for joining us this week on the podcast. A lot of great content on our website, rpacrundown.com, and check out social media to stay up to date. The RPAC Rundown Podcast is brought to you by sponsors like JBK Operating LLC, Scouts Recreation, Cross Diamond Cattle Company, Tri-Valley Medical Foundation, and Prairie Girl Candle Company. Thanks a bunch for tuning in. We will catch you later.